All right, Amanda, I think if you're ready to go, I'll go ahead and do the introduction and we can start it off.
Great. Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, so everybody, welcome to a SaksWorks programming event with our friend Amanda here. Today, we're going to be talking about your health portrait is your self-portrait. And a little bit about Amanda is that she's a doctor of physical therapy. She's a yoga and meditation educator. She's a health and wellness advocate, and she's also on the world tour of surfing medical team. This is a very interesting path. Lived in Encinitas, beautiful, sunny Encinitas, California for a while. She's back in New Jersey now. Overall mental health and wellness expert, and excited to hear what she has to say today. So Amanda, without further ado, you can take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Clayton. Super nice of you. And hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. It's my honor to, spend a little afternoon time with you and, get to chat. So I'm looking forward to this time with you. And one of my, let's just start. We're going to get right into it just so, because I'm a physical therapist. So we're going to get into some structure, just a little exercise right here off the bat. So as you're sitting here, just slouch, like pretend you're like, on your computer, like all of you are. Take a little slouch and, like you're on your phone, and probably everything I would tell you not to do as a yoga teacher, right? But so in your slouched position, bring your arm up, like see if you can raise your arm up overhead. Maybe even try the other one, like see if you can raise your arm. Yeah, and even in this slouched position, see how your breath feels. Like, can you take a nice deep breath in? Big breath out. Okay, and let's change all that up. So now go ahead and sit up nice and tall. Try to lengthen up through your spine and have your head over your heart. I like to think of that as kind of a nice posture, head over heart, broaden across your collarbones. And then from here, see if you can raise your arm overhead. See if there's any difference. Even try the other side. A little better, maybe. And then how about your breath? Like take a nice deep breath in the belly. And exhale. Feel a little better too, more access to your breath. And then have your hands, like I'm gonna hold my hands like this. So my thumbs are kind of in the back of the low rib cage, kind of like where your kidneys might be, like kind of those low ribs. And then the other fingers are wrapped around front. And breathe out wide, like deep into the lower, like lungs, the lower ribs. And try to it's an accordion and kind of like expand out and then come back in. And slow your breath down. Widen your breath. Good. And then you can place your hands down, just palms on your thighs, and even close your eyes. I invite you to close your eyes just to bring your attention inward, focus inward for our time together, just to get centered and grounded with a few deep breaths. Kind of continue on with that wide, expansive breaths. And see if you can do that in through the nose and out through the nose. And then see if you can deepen it a little bit, maybe counting to 4 on the inhale. And pause for 4. And then exhale for 4. Pause for 4. And inhale for 4. Pause for 4. And exhale for 4. Pause for 4. And then return back to your natural breath. Still keeping your eyes closed. And then you can gently blink your eyes open, welcome the light back in. Kind of a nice way to get centered. That's called box breathing, which is a really accessible tool that and if 4 counts felt too much or not enough, you can always expand it longer. You never want to force like any kind of breath work but 4 is typically really accessible, and you can work with that pattern that really helps kind of ground you, kind of working through and keeping you centered, right? And that mindfulness of the breath. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And then, backtracking up to the posture. I mean, as a physical therapist, yeah, I'm working with people's physical bodies, and the posture is such a tool that, whether it's Tadasana or seated or whatever it is, I'm always trying to emphasize with my patients and students the importance of posture, because if you don't get the proper shoulder range of motion and you're kind of slouched, you just can't, and you'll get like something called impingement over time. And having that nice lifted heart really gives you that ball and socket joint, like full range of motion. And our hip and our shoulder are both ball and socket joints, so they have an enormous range of motion. They do all the movements, and so they're very vulnerable too. So we have to support them and have that platform for them to work and operate effectively. So it's really key. It's almost like the shoulder in particular is like a golf ball on a tee. Like it's that unstable, and so it's like you want to set your shoulder up for that proper even strength, right? And having all those muscles that help it move in the right position. So it's amazing how much our posture will change, even just how we feel. If you're feeling not so great or even fatigued, we might slouch a little bit. And our body actually has to work. It feels good, but our body has to work way harder to keep us out of alignment than in alignment. So believe it or not, if you're like spending long hours at the screen or whatever, like it's really good to get up and take breaths and be in alignment, because then your body is functioning efficiently. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys that sidebar there with the physical aspect of your posture, right? And not only like seated, but even in standing. So what else? Then the breath too. Interesting, when you slouch, how much like you like like your diaphragm's right there, and how much you compress it, that you don't have access to proper breathing. And I gotta say, I'm a book nerd. I love to read, and one of my like most favorite books recently that I read, I don't know if any of you have read this, but Breath by James Nestor. It's awesome. It is so good. The New Science of a Lost Art, and he really gets into some breath practices and the importance of breathing in and out through your nose. It's a game changer. I love this book, and I highly recommend it. So, and I think he did a box breathing in that one too, but the in through the nose and out through the nose, and having that proper oxygen, carbon oxide exchange is so important for your optimum functioning, right? And so there's how many systems in the body. Does anybody know how many systems are in the body that makes us function? You can look in my chat too if you don't want to hop off your mute. But if anybody wants to give a guess, how many functioning systems in the body, like our respiratory system, for example, with the breathing? Think like 5. I got a 5. Anybody else? Trent, 108. All right.
Drastically different answers right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's a drastic difference. I know it's fascinating. There's 11 actually. So from the endocrine system, which is our hormones, the reproductive system, digestive system. So there's a lot happening in our bodies already in our physiology, and to help us operate, right? So what it comes down to, even with the breath work, what I find so fascinating is you can actually change your physiology and your chemistry by the way you breathe and how well you breathe, because you can actually change like physically the oxygen and carbon dioxide, and you can really make some changes with the differences in the breath. So 11 is the answer. Sorry guys, thanks for chiming in what you thought it was. Yeah, so a lot's happening, right? And so on the physical level, right? And then we have the mental and the emotional level too, right? That's also very impactful, and which I find in the physical therapy that I do, but then also the yoga aspect of meditation, like I can weave it all together. And, some of our aches and pains and old pain that we have, can be something that's happened with trauma in our past too. So it's taking into an account, that everybody is so individual, right? And everybody has their histories and their stories and make up, who you are, and your from your posture to, how you walk through life and present yourself. I mean, we're already, these we're pretty unstable guys with our we're the only mammals that are walking on 2 feet. And I mean, I actually have a size 11, so I have pretty big feet, but and my boyfriend has size 16, so he has big feet. But it's amazing like how our whole entire being is supported by these two small feet that we have. So other mammals are on all fours, right? So we're basically a skeleton, all these bones. And how do we, teach our muscles to work, and support us? How do we educate ourselves? And over time, we can make changes. Our body often with lifestyles and just environmental factors, we can, kind of detour off our symmetry. Nobody is symmetrical, by the way. PS. Nobody. We all have our asymmetries just based on our life, right? And being right-handed versus left-handed. So it's we're working with that. We're working with our bodies and how they like to go in the path of least resistance. So sometimes like in yoga and breathing practices, you're taking your body a little bit out of that comfort zone, right? And exploring something new and working, right? It takes work. And that's why with this, the health portrait is your self portrait, is it does take work and tending to and nurturing on all levels, not just like the physical aspect and, taking care of your body, eating well, but like who the people, the people that you surround yourself with, how you access your creativity, or what brings you joy, what do you prioritize? So there's a lot of, different moving parts that I feel like we continually come back to, right? And anchor into, at different phases of our life, right? And what we're going through. But it's a practice, right? I feel like an ever like practice that's ongoing, a process that's ever change, and changing too, which is also really cool because we're dynamic beings. So, at this point, I mean, we're going to dive into some more about health, but I've kind of been rattling on a little bit. Does anybody have any questions at this point, or doing okay? Everyone's good. Thumbs up out there. Okay, awesome. Okay, so my next question, and feel free if you had a journal you wanted to just bring along with you today, or a piece of paper. We're going to do a couple things, or go grab that now, pen and a paper, that you can write down and hopefully take with you, and some tips here too. There's also an article on the Eventbrite site where you signed up that has more information with an article that I wrote. So feel free to access that. I'm doing a lot, or looking at a lot of that article for reference to, that we'll be tapping into today. So, but when you think of the word health, what comes to mind? Like, is there, like, when you think about what it is, what is health in your heart? Like one word that comes to you, like you feel in your heart. Is there like a word that you resonate with? And it could be happy, it could be relax, lifestyle. I chose heal, because heal is actually in the word health. And I feel like we're kind of on this continuous journey, always in this healing process and reprocessing and uncovering. So that's what I chose. But yeah, there's a word that maybe popped into your head. And when you think of that word, like, how did you get there? Like if you were going to say, like I just explained to you with the word heal, what's a little bit deeper layers of under that? Like, what does that really mean to you? Like, what does that feel like? Whether it's that lifestyle and harmony, is it then cultivating balance in your everyday life? Like, like what is a little bit more of a deeper layer of health? Kind of think on that, and you can write on it. And I'm just going to read to you. I just went right to Wikipedia and for the definition of health. Health is the state of being free from illness or injury. It's a person's mental or physical condition of being sound in body, mind, and spirit. It's a toast to someone's well-being. And other synonyms are wellness, hardiness, wholeness, and soundness. Pretty cool, right off of Wikipedia. But, what's your definition of health? I mean, that's a very general one, but with your word, contentment, happiness, like, how can you uncover your definition a little bit deeper? And so you might want to, write that down or jot down like a little bit deeper meaning into that definition, right? Because we all are so unique, right, in our definitions and our different environments. So keep that definition, kind of hold that with you. And then next, and you're welcome to even close your eyes if you're feeling like you're in a safe space, or, have your journal nearby. But we're going to go a little bit deeper into that, excavate a little bit more underneath our definition of like what makes that picture, like what it feels like, but even like what it like feels like inside, and how you can visualize it, which is your portrait. So it might even be, what medium are you using? And is it a white canvas? Or maybe you have a piece of paper and you draw that little, it's like a mapping, and you might have your word in the middle and then you draw out. It could even be that, that you feel called to. It could be a scribble. So your, seeing that you're going to draw of your health is kind of like what's coming from your heart now. And are you using a crayon, or, what might that be? Or maybe you're on your computer doodling. So when you think about it, like in your scene of this health, this picture of health, like where are you? Where would that be? Like what's the landscape around you? Are you in a certain environment? And maybe you notice what colors, maybe what time of day it is will influence those colors. Like it could be the sunrise or sunset or midday, and even what the temperature is or weather, because it could be snowy in the mountains or somewhere really warm and tropical, somewhere in the woods. Really connect with those colors and scene, the setting. And then from there, notice if you even smell anything. Is there a salt air or the smell of pine trees? And then do you hear anything? Is it super quiet and soft sounds of the river or the ocean, or the silence of snow falling? Like, do you hear anything? And then what are you doing? Like, are you out for a stroll? Are you seated? You riding a horse in this place of health? Like, what are you doing? And is anyone with you? You might not be by yourself. You might have a pet with you. You might have a friend. You might be even at a festival or something. Like where is this? If anyone's around you or connecting there. Maybe you even taste something that you, like your lips, that you feel, that you taste. And even how do you feel in your skin when you're in this place, this comfortable place of health, this vision that you've created, this portrait? in this painting, whatever it is, like you really feel that you're capturing your internal mood and emotions, whether it's the harmony or content, balance, and use this vision as an imprint into your health portrait, something that you created. And it's a continual creation every single day, like how you nourish this scene through your choices, right? And if you have your eyes closed, you can go ahead and gently blink them open. You can allow the light in. Hopefully you have this picture of your health. I hope that was helpful. Anybody want to share their scene or kind of like what their, well, I see a couple words coming through on the chat. Does anyone want to share where they were, like a location, or your experience in just feeling that? Did you connect with your word in your scene?
To
Anybody
me,
want
my
to
scene was
chat?
I think you said like how are you kind of painting that scene? To me, it was like long uh paint brush strokes in a sense, and the color was like very bright, like a yellow and an orange,
Mm.
and got me close to like a beach or like on a balcony, kind of overlooking the ocean or something. And then because that's where obviously I know you got a lot of surfing background. It's like basically put me on a balcony in Encinitas. That's like
Oh,
kind of
cool.
where naturally my mind went.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
That that feeling of like your word was lifestyle, right? Like how like that lifestyle culture, surf, beachy vibe. Very nice.
There was a
That's
lot of
awesome.
stillness as well.
Cool. That's awesome.
hmm
Yeah, thank you.
hmm
Anybody else want to share? Well, hold that with you, hold that scene with you in your heart. And it's something that you can go back to and recreate and change, as things change, in your life. But let's now further in the article, there's some questions that I have that even kind of like help you get a little bit deeper into your health portrait, like how to support you. What are some actionable steps to take, to support this feeling, right? Because you might not feel supported some days. We're human, and not every day is, you know, um, rainbows and butterflies, right? So, and we might not feel like writing in our gratitude journal, or right. So, that's where we can go to help ourselves kind of go in a little deeper with our questions. But in the reality is like we have to feel it to heal it. And we can sometimes like you do so a lot of positive things, right, in your life, and then you sometimes I know in my own experience, like I can almost detour and create like, oh yeah, I can talk myself through it without feeling it first, so the it's still there, right, that emotion. So it's really good to sit with your emotions and support yourself, and know that you can go back to that, even that scene, if it's somewhere where you need to go to even feel sad or work through something to kind of get back to your health word, and back to that lifestyle balance feeling. So that's really important too, I think, to note, is like, to sit with it, instead of like talk yourself out of like moving through it too fast, right? So you have to feel to heal. I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but it is so true. So some of the questions that I like to sit with, and there's so many questions. In fact, the last question that I have 14 on here, but the last question is that you can make your own question up, because I feel like we're all just so individual to support ourselves. It's like, I go back to these questions, but maybe pick top three that are feeling more supportive, right, than I right now, right, that I would go to. And I'll read them to you, because sometimes like even the first one is about sleep. I don't know about you, but if I don't get the right amount of sleep, I'm completely derailed. Like the next, I mean, it's kind of like you might even go for more coffee and you get jittery and then you get tired or fatigued and make the wrong choices, even like food, for example, like not eating properly when you're too tired. So quality sleep, that's question number one. Are you getting quality sleep? And what is that for you? Some people are like 6, some people are 8 hours, like it's usually between the two, but supporting yourself with enough sleep and having that proper sleep, being horizontal and is very rejuvenating for your body and the recovery um, mode. It's like it's just really helpful. I worked with a professional snowboarder who was in a near death accident, and I worked with him for a month every single day in Encinitas. And he, like, my goal was to get him to sleep comfortably, like, because he was in so much pain. And just to have him heal would be through having him rest and letting his body heal, and it did. And he went to the Olympics 10 months later, so amazing. But you sometimes have to take it down a notch and slow down, right? And allow your body to rest. And especially now when we're in this like go, go, go mode all the time. And it can be pretty overwhelming, right? And then we put a lot of demand on ourselves too. So setting yourself up with a nightly routine and getting sleep is key. So that's number one. Second one, hydration. That I don't have it here right now, but I do. I'm like, oh, but I do have a cup of water. But a ball jar, like I shoot for that's 32 ounces. 2 or 3 a day. Like especially when I'm doing a lot, if I'm surfing a lot or doing a lot of activity, I definitely like to ramp it up. You'd be surprised if you're even thirsty. That's a sign that you're already dehydrated. So, and the older we get, the more dehydrated we get, like our tissues, everything. We just kind of do a little bit more drying out. So we almost have to like keep rehydrating, and it really helps with fatigue too. So it helps keep you alert. And like we sleep 8 hours in the night, right? From number one, we wake up in the morning, we're already dehydrated. So having like I drink a lot in the majority of the beginning of the day, like until 2, like I drink a lot in the beginning because we're already waking up dehydrated um without having water in the nighttime. So having a lot of water by your bed and drinking um is really key. So next one, what are you eating, and are you chewing your food thoroughly? How much do you, I mean, so many times I catch myself eating really quickly and I'm not chewing. Like I was in a nutrition course and they were talking about how like 20 times a bite is what you should be chewing. Who does that? But it really helps with your digestion. It also helps stimulate acids in your stomach to help with the digestion. I love smoothies. And when I drink a smoothie without kind of, sounds weird, but kind of doing a little chewing, even my celery juice, like I'll kind of do a little motion of chewing because when you chew, it does activate those juices. And I don't know about you, but like if you've ever felt like you have a big rock in your stomach, even when you feel like you eat fast, that's because the juice, the acid isn't there to help break it down. You haven't been chewing enough, and sometimes it can just sit there, and it takes a while for like some more water or something is going to help it, but it takes a little bit more time, and it's really uncomfortable. But looking at your plate and is it, how fresh is it? Where did it come from? Is it colorful? And trying new recipes, all those things are real inspiring too, of that with your nutrition and then the chewing. So let's see, number 4, how well are you going to the bathroom? All the bathrooms. So I know I was like, should I put that one in there? But it is key. I mean, it tells you how your previous day's eating was, right? So and it's no fun when you're backed up, that's for sure. I mean, it is basic plumbing. And sometimes people are like, they'll tell me like, oh, well, I'm eating this, this, and this. And I'm like, you actually have to take it back a notch, like, and not eat so much. You just are continually, forcing the clog. So almost like a little mini cleanse or something to kind of like, and a lot of water for that too. So Healthy digestion is really important. Um, how are you moving? What are you doing for movement practice is the next one. So like if you have a set up routine of a certain exercise that you do, and there was another one on here too, like what you do for fun. So that could kind of overlap with that, with your hobbies, or, how are you sparking your creativity? I know a lot for me, with surfing often sparks my creativity and my writing, um, are you getting, proper movement and getting your heart rate up, and very key too for your health. Um, are you listening to your intuition is the next one. And that goes along with a mindfulness meditation practice. And there's so much with meditation I could share right now. I could go on for quite a bit, but I feel like that was a real game changer in my life. It really helped me get through physical therapy school. I'd been out of school for 8 years, went to PT school, and was doing horribly. And I didn't know I had test anxiety, but apparently I did. I didn't even know that it existed. And so I started meditating, and it got me through school with all A's toward the end, and got me through my boards, but I wasn't really approaching it right, and the questions. And so I would get real anxious and didn't know what are those multiple choices to choose, and I would confuse myself. So if you can get even a 5-minute meditation practice going, it's really pivotal. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you meditate now, but it's like brushing your teeth in the morning, and it's like you wouldn't leave the house. Well, some of you might leave the house without brushing your teeth, but it really is for your brain to kind of like get clear. And people will say to me, well, I don't have time to meditate. Well, the thing about meditation is it actually saves you time. Believe it or not, you make better choices coming from a more balanced, calm place than kind of frenetic or frantic, right? And then you make the wrong choices, and you might have left your keys or forgot your phone, and you have to go back home anyway. You kind of get more scrambled, you know what I mean? So I feel like if you do carve out that 5 minutes, whenever works for you, I typically like the morning to kind of really get grounded in my day. And it could be that you visualize your picture of health, or the box breathing too, and sitting and getting real clear for your day. And I think that is just one of those game changers, right? And it actually will save you time. And going back to the intuition, it really helps you get to your intuition. I feel like we get kind of stuck in our day-to-day mode and choices, and that's called, I don't want to downplay it, but the lower mind. And then there's the higher mind, which is your intuition. And when you're kind of down here in the lower mind, which we don't think about, like I'm moving my hands or I'm grabbing my cup, to drink, I'm not thinking like reach your hand out, turn your fingers around the cup, right? It's kind of rote. So we need our lower mind. I'm not downplaying that by any means, but what happens is if we're not spending enough time with our higher mind, that helps with how many times a day you're like, oh, I even thought about that but didn't follow that intuition. I feel like the more I meditate, the more I do those intuitive decisions, and I don't look back and say, oh, I had that thought and I didn't follow it. So you get more grounded, I feel like, with that higher mind, more connected, more confident. And that's what helped me on my tests too, was that I didn't second guess myself. I was right in there, taking, I'd even have lemongrass with me before I would meditate. And then I would bring the lemongrass, the aromatherapy, a little oil, and put it on me before a test. So in the class, my students or the other students were like, whatever, but it's like I dropped right into kind of that meditative state with that a sense of smell, with me. So that's just kind of like a side note tip for help if that helps you. I really liked having this sense of smell to help ground me too. So okay. The next one is, are you frequently sick? That's going to tell you too, like the barometer of like, all the other things might be a little skew. You might not be getting enough sleep, or you might not be getting enough nutrition or hydration. So that's kind of like, okay, well, how am I feeling, on that physical level too? And that's some feedback for you. The next one, which was kind of the bulk of what the article was, and I was just going to pick two. I hope it's okay, Clayton. I'm going through all of them, but number 8 is, was about like the connection. The word was connection, and like who you surround yourself with, but also the connection to yourself. And how are you connecting to yourself? Are you getting time for yourself and connecting? Um, with you, whether it's through meditation or your movement, right? But how do you feel after you spend time with people, and how it's so important. I feel like these days when we're not as connected, but we're here on even Zoom connecting, and your resources and your people. And I'll often call it my board of directors. And it could be you have a team of friends you go to with certain issues, or you have an acupuncturist, you have a physical therapist, you have your team of people there. I call my board of directors, and maybe that's one of those, like that connection that you can cultivate with those people who will help elevate you, and then you can do the same for other people, right? You are then in a better place to be someone else's sunshine and help bring them up too when they're not feeling as good. So I feel like that support group and that connection of people in your team that you can resource and outsource to is really key. So you can even write down like a list or whatever, but it's all the people too that really will that help you function at an optimum level, right? And that thriving instead of just surviving. We're not here to just do the day to day, but it's like can you really be have that thriving sense, and who are the people that bring you the joy. So when was the last time you gave and received a hug? Hugs are so good, and that's a little bit with that connection too. I mean, it's really, I know we were so closed off with everything going on with the pandemic, and but being around those people that do make you feel good, and that receiving and giving a hug that's not just like a quick one, but like a really a warm embrace, is really important too. And that was another thing I learned in PT one time was in a continuing education course I was in. I was like, sometimes your patients, you just, you want to show up and you have all these goals to do with them. And sometimes they just need a smoothie, a hug, and a nap. It's not, it's sometimes it's the day it changes, and that's just sometimes what we need. And so it's okay. You don't have to be like, I have to do ABC goals, but sometimes it's a smoothie, a hug, and a nap. Okay. Um, how well are you breathing? We kind of touched upon that. I told you my favorite book right now. Where and like, how are you breathing? How well are you breathing? Do you do breathing practices? You know, um, really check in with that. Notice if you are breathing in or in your nose, or your mouth breather, even when you're sleeping, like, or going to sleep, falling asleep. You may not exactly know what you're doing in the night, but are you breathing out of your nose through the night? It's way more calming. So when you're breathing through your nose, we have a big cavity in here called, it's the sinus cavity, right? So the air can kind of swirl in there, and it takes it time. There's a lot of capacity in there and to come down into the lungs. If you breathe directly in through your mouth, it goes straight down, and it doesn't get filtered. Like in the book, there's a filtering system in through your nose that's like drinking distilled pure water, whereas breathing through your mouth is like drinking like muddy water, right? So there's a huge difference, even just shifting to nose breathing, that can really help you. So and slowing the breath down. Okay, so the next one, what do you prioritize, like in all of these, like where your priorities lie, and with what do you do for fun, and how you're feeling in this moment. But it's like, how can you prioritize all these? And if you notice, like, what you prioritize is what you're going to do, and you may have this like big to-do list of like, oh, I'm going to do this, but don't overwhelm yourself and do, it can be overwhelming, right? Like, of all these questions that we just went over, and then you may have some others too to add in. But picking three, and just working with those for a little bit of time till you kind of feel like they're more of a habit. That's one way I like to do it. Like, what do you prioritize? And you'll know, like, okay, well, I'm really prioritizing, you know my meditation practice and sitting for 5 minutes, and being really aware of how I'm breathing through my nose, and drinking more water. Like, those could be your top three right now, right? That's an awesome way to start, and kind of building on that awareness. And awareness is one of my favorite words. It's the name of my business, but it's just that pivotal piece that, like, if you're unaware, like, that's like 80% of it. Otherwise you're not going to follow through. But if you like, oh, I'm really aware of I'm slouching, like, okay, I'm going to sit up, so, like, having the awareness is just key, and it is a practice. So all of this is practices. These questions are practices, but practicing that awareness all the time to kind of have it on, like, oh yeah, okay, and you'll start changing your habits, from that. So that's kind of these basic questions that aren't so basic. But there's other ones too, like, are you getting sunlight? Are you, maybe journaling? If you're a writer, in a gratitude journal, that's one of my favorites too. So that gratitude can kind of pull me out of like a bad day, like, I'm grateful for blank and why. So if you do a gratitude journal, I've found over the years, when I say why, it makes it more of a feeling than just like, oh, I'm grateful for surfing, or whatever, but I'm grateful for surfing because I got to move and it brought me joy. I was in the water, whatever. So it kind of creates a feeling. So if you are doing a gratitude journal, I encourage you to say why too after it. So yeah, this is like the kind of these are some of my favorite practices that I've shared. And I'm sure you have some too that are relevant for what works for you. These are kind of the ones that I've worked with over the years. And but I'm was so happy to share these. I know I've rattled on a ton, so I'd love to hear if anyone has any questions, or if you do too, Clayton, anything to add. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think these were some profound questions that you asked us, because a lot of them are
Yeah.
just, a building block for the building blocks for a happy and healthy life. So very interesting to me. Some of these I tend to ask myself a lot. Others got my attention more, like, am I frequently sick? Or, who do I surround myself with? I like the board of directors kind of analogy, because it's so true. I
Yeah.
think, the old expression that you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with, but that, got me grateful for a lot of the people that, I'm lucky enough to have in my life, trusted mentors, trusted supporters that I know I can go to for advice, and that, have my back and can share their wisdom with me. So all very cool questions.
Yeah.
Last time I gave and
Good.
received a hug, I was like, that's interesting. Like, let me think about that. That's something that, I wouldn't normally think of. So
Yeah.
yeah, all very interesting questions. And I
Yeah.
think I have a question for you, actually. So in your
Sure.
meditation practice, you said you started when you were in PT school. Like, where
Hmm.
did you start from, or how did you educate yourself on that topic? And like, what was it like going from not meditating to like committing to that 5 minute a day practice, or whatever you started with?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. So I was practicing yoga already, and I feel like, just sidebar and kind of side note with yoga, what I've learned too over the years is, I went to yoga as a physical practice, and to stretch, and like, and at some point it changed more to the mental emotional part. And I'm like, when was that? And I ask my students, because I'm a I teach yoga teacher trainings, and I'll always ask them that, like, where was that? When did it shift? And I always feel like it's when I got into my breathing. And, the breath is like the bridge between the mind and the body, right? So I had dabbled with, like, the yoga part of it, and I knew there was something more to this yoga thing. And I feel like it was definitely the breath that got me into it. So I was practicing pretty frequently, and it was the beginning of physical therapy school. And this one teacher of mine was offering meditations on Friday nights for like 20 minutes, group meditations. And so I would stay after. It was like a restorative yoga class, and then stay for the 20 minutes. And that seemed like so long, right? And then she stopped doing it and offering those classes. And she's like, well, what about, just setting it up before school, have your little space. And I feel like PS by that really helps me, is when I have a space to meditate. I mean, you can go in nature and sit anywhere, right? But for me, I like to have a little candle and stuff going and really set the tone. That helps me get to my meditation. And I sit in a chair. I'm sitting in a chair right now, and I sit in a chair because I think it's too uncomfortable to be cross-legged. Because then you'll be thinking about it all the time, like, oh, my hip is hurting or my
Right.
foot fell asleep. So I definitely like encourage like both feet down and just sitting in a chair, and even having your back rested up against it, so you're not, like, just relaxing that way. So when you have a place and a chair to go to, I think that's helpful. So yeah, that's a great question. And then I just sat with I put my lemongrass on, and then smell that, and then sit for 5 minutes before I went off to school. So that really started. I didn't do it at night, but then, like I said, I'd bring out the lemongrass before a test. And that was within months. Now, I mean, that's the thing with meditation. Sometimes people are like, they don't see results right away. Sometimes they do. I mean, honestly, I do. But when I get off the meditation train, and things aren't going right, I'm like, what's going on in my life? Like, why am I so chaotic? What has changed? Oh yeah, I haven't been meditating.
Yeah.
So it's very subtle, and it'll slow you down, to really read through questions. And I had a physical therapy teacher who, the multiple choice was from like A to almost S. I mean, and it was like A, B, C, D, A, F, Y, like it was, just mind boggling. So, it, that was one class, but, it really helped to get me centered to really read those questions, and, like, I know the answer before I even looked at the answers. You know what I mean? Before
Yeah.
you can like make sense of all the answers, I'd be like, oh, well, that one works. Oh, that one works too. When you could really kind of hone in. Oh, that's what my intuition is saying. So, and I try to, like 5-10 minutes now, a day. I try to do at least, I try to do that. There's
Yeah.
lots of different forms of meditation out there. Pick a style and just sit with that. I typically resonate with one that has a little bit of guidance in the beginning, and then some silence too. Those are typically the ones I resonate, but there's so many cool apps out there too, and that you could listen to, and they guide you through them. But meditation was a game changer. I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. For me,
Or
I've got a little bit of experience meditating as well. Been doing it for like 5 or 6 years now, more
oh,
seriously.
cool.
So it's a big,
Yeah,
definitely probably one of the major pillars of my life. It's helped me tap into that intuition, see clearly. So it made a huge impact on me. I know Trent can speak on this as well, but it's a big foundational, like I said, pillar of the Jewel Never Broken Foundation, inspiring children. So I was lucky enough to be educated on it early. But yeah, it's made
yeah,
a huge difference. And same thing, like if I don't, even if I meditate like later in the day, it's like, what's going on? It's like I'm just getting hit in the face with, life throwing everything at you. But uh, meditation brings me down to that place of a more calm, more, intuitive ability to
yeah,
make decisions and kind of operate through. So I was just curious what
yeah.
your experience was like. And I, again, like the 20 minutes, I started maybe 30 seconds a day was like the most I could do because my mind, I wasn't able to sit still. So
Mhm.
that's probably one of the big recommendations I tell people as well, like just start, be consistent. But if it's 30 seconds a day, like it's 30 seconds a day, and then work
Yeah.
up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that just even just little snippets here and there, when you just need to sit and breathe or, find a technique that works for you. So helpful. Yeah, it really is. It can, you know, um, change a lot, for sure. It's like it has no side effects, not
Right.
like not saying but medication and meditation sound a lot alike, so it's like they kind of share the same roots, and I'm not downplaying any medications by any means because a lot of people need those, but it's like, but you can add that tool too, or have that tool in your toolbox, that really helps you sit with things. And, and I had somebody tell me that they were scared to do it and
Mhm.
scared to sit. And sure, I mean, yeah, they're like, what's going to come up? Like, what am I going to feel? And like you said, just having a little bit of that guidance, or 30 seconds of just being with yourself, so you really get to into like a deeper place of knowing yourself and your intuition.
You got to feel
Yeah.
to heal. You said that earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you really do. Sometimes things do come up, and that's okay. Just exactly like, yeah, just kind of let it
I'm gonna
let it
take that one with
flow.
me, by the way. That's a good one. I've
What's
never heard
that?
that. I'm gonna take that one with me. You gotta
Oh,
feel to
good,
heal. I
good.
like that one.
Yeah, yeah, it is a great one. It's like that one, in the one in physical therapy, I could say quite a bit is use it or lose it. And I'm like, oh gosh, that sounds so cliche, but it's so true.
It's true. Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
yeah, motion is lotion. And the same with, but that rolls over to meditation. Like, you gotta, it is a practice, and you can change the wiring in your brain, just like I was saying, the chemistry in your body, with breathing. So there's so much that you can change, and you have control over.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
We're coming up here closer to the end. Does anyone else have any comments or questions or anything they'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll open the chat too, see if
Yeah.
anybody's chatting up here. I'm so happy everyone jumped on. It's really nice to see everybody. Anybody else? You can unmute yourself, I believe. If anybody wants to share anything else, or question, comment, concern, anything. Quiet.
Okay. If not, I'll drop the article in the chat box as well if anyone wants to go
Cool.
read that Amanda wrote, and also dropping in the link to SaksWorks advising. So if you'd like to go deeper into any one of these topics, any one of the great questions that Amanda asked us, then feel free to hop on there. We're doing free 30-minute consultations for the SaksWorks advising with mental health and wellness experts if you'd like to do one-on-one with them. And with that being said, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today. I think they were
So
great
welcome.
questions. I'm definitely taking some of these away with me, and I
Awesome.
appreciate you coming on.
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
happy.
Appreciate that.
You, oh, you're so welcome. It was my pleasure. I mean, this is a valuable time, and I'm so happy that you shared it with me. So
All right, Amanda. Thank you,
I
everybody, for
value your
coming.
time. Cool.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I'll share the link too.
Perfect.